Sometimes just going through these word problems is a little bit of a challenge itself. So if you're making trail mix, how many pounds of mixed nuts selling for $4.75 per pound? Should be mixed with 10 pounds of dried fruit selling for $5.50 per pound to obtain a trail mix of something that would sell for $4.95 a pound. And so just so we slow down, we got like some mixed nuts here, a little bit on the inexpensive side compared to this. But if this is going to be resulting in something that's $4.95, my guess is that there's going to be more mixed nuts than there will be just dried fruit. And as you're listening to me talk, I mean, it's fine to jump back and rewind already, because we can all admit these are challenging problems. But as I look at it, we got one thing plus another thing giving us something new. So I've drawn like 3 cylinders here. And as I pull out the information, I'm going to say, well, this is mixed nuts. Then we got the fruit, and then we got the trail mix. And if I pull out all the information, this is going to be $4.75, $5.50, so apparently fruit's more expensive, and $4.95. So I'm teaching you a strategy, and that's showing 2 different containers getting combined to make a combined mixture that's going to average out to a different lower price. And scanning back through the problem, it says, well, how many pounds of the mixed nuts? Well, that means that this would be our variable. So I'll go ahead and put an X there. But we know that we would have 10 pounds of the fruit. And we also don't know how much we would have of this. And this is often the most challenging one to come up with. And the reason is because you don't think to yourself that, well, I know it's 10, and I know it's X, and those are just being added together. So believe it or not, you can erase that question mark and place X plus 10 here, because that's what I'm going to get out of that mixture. So that's one strategy, kind of drawing a picture to paint a clearer picture of the word problem. But before we go on and jump right into it, I'm going to show this using a table as well. If you're tight on room, you might want to head somewhere else. But we know that we have the mixed nuts, so I'm going to write mix on the left side. I'm going to write fruit, because we know we have the dried fruit. And then we got the trail mix that's resulting from it. By the way, be sure to use letters that don't overlap or conflict to where you're showing the wrong setup. Well, then in my next part of the table, I'm going to have pounds. And jumping back, well, we didn't know what this was or that, so I'm going to do this almost like it was brand new. So be patient, even though there's some repeat. So here's 10 pounds of fruit. But we didn't know. We were asked how much of the mix we should have. And if I get to that final cell in this bottom of the column, well, then I can kind of see a different presentation of X plus 10 becoming X plus 10. Moving over to my next column, we need to know what the cost should be. And so this is the cost, and it's not enough to just write a dollar sign like that. It's going to be nice to see dollars per pound. And unlike in the previous column where we had a variable, we know all the information for this. So here's $4.75, $5.50, and our goal is for it to cost $4.95. But then my total price, my resulting cost after I would do this, well, you know, if I had like 10 pounds of something that was $5 a pound, I'd just do 10 times 5. And so one more time, like I'll show you that with units. If I had 10 pounds of something that was $5 per pound, my pounds would cancel out because of the fractions, and I'd be left with 10 times 5 being 50. And the reason I do that is hopefully it helps you see that I'm just going to take the number on the left and multiply it by this middle column, and I'm going to write 4.75x. And as an in-between step, I do think it would be helpful to write 10 times 5.5, and you can write equals 55 if you want. So notice that I wrote this number out front, but then went left to right here. Don't let that trip you up. And speaking of, that's kind of why I always like to have the number out in front of a parentheses too. So I'm going to write 4.95 times the quantity, x plus 10. If that looks like a 16 to you, that means that you're probably needing to be a little bit more actively engaged as you're listening to this video. Okay, so let's look at some of the equations we came up with. Well, this is an equation, but it doesn't do me any good to say that x plus 10 is equal to x plus 10. That gives me infinite solutions. And this isn't really a path to follow because that's just a different cost per pound. So as we set up an equation, it's like we're really wanting to know what the end result is. Well, the end result is we have $4.95 for the pounds of the trail mix that we're creating. So here's like the trail mix way over here on the right side of my drawing, as well as on the bottom right side of my table. Okay, now here I got fruit and the mixed nuts all getting put together as well. So I'm going to write 4.75x plus, and I'd like to see this written out, 5.5 times 10. Which means that, you know, we got the mix plus the fruit will give us this target. A lot of people accidentally leave this off. Make sure you don't leave that off. Because if you follow the pattern, it's like cost times pounds. Cost times pounds, cost times pounds. So it's like we're getting a weighted average of all of those different things once they're combined. Now I'm not going to solve this yet. I'm going to simplify. So we got 4.75x plus 55 equals, and here I'll go ahead and distribute so that I don't have parentheses. 4.95x plus, and then here we're going to have 49.5. If you're not sure where that came from, well, the decimal just moved over when it gets multiplied by 10. And if you're not believing of that, take out a calculator. Sorry about that. That probably ended up being pretty loud on your end. Okay, I'm going to subtract 4.75 because I like to avoid negatives. 55 equals 0.2x plus 49.5. Now, even though there's decimals, it might make the problem seem a little different. No big deal. We're going to subtract from both sides. I'd rather see the variable on the left side, so I'm going to make this, switch as I do. So I'm going to write 0.2x on the left equals 5.5. I'm going to divide that by 0.2, divide it by 0.2, and maybe some of you can see that this is actually going to make it 5 times bigger. But just to play it on the safe side, go ahead and get a calculator out, and we'll say that it's 27.5. And then our answer as we scan back would have to be in pounds. And a long time ago when we began this problem, I told you that I predicted that there'd probably be more of this than that, because it would have to be significant for these two prices to be very, very close to one another. We'll stop this video since it's getting to the 10-minute mark. and we'll see how these go.